As we approach 5 years since the release of Planet Coaster, I feel it's a good time to start a formal conversation on a sequel and what we can expect from it. My name is Moomin Littlesocks, and yes, that is on my birth certificate, and I love Planet Coaster a lot. I'd go as far as to say it's my favourite game, and I for one am very eager for Planet Coaster 2. The problem Frontier developments face is that they can't just tart up the original and call it a day. Whilst developers of other genres can write a new story, change the game location, or make a bigger map, none of this really applies to a management sim. This means Planet Coaster 2 has to be a complete game changer, pardon the pun. An entirely new experience whilst holding on to all that we love from the first one, and that's no easy feat. A quick example, us regular builders are very used to our catalogue of build items. We know what piece to use for what, so are we keeping those? We're still going to need our beams and art shapes, so are they just going to optimise those assets and reuse them? Imagine getting Planco 2 and there's no stucco walls, sacrilege. Similarly, there are currently over 10,000 TMTK items on the workshop. Will those be compatible with the sequel, or will all that work become redundant? So as you can tell, Frontier have their work cut out and some very important decisions to make, which is why I believe we've had to wait so long for it. But let's not get carried away. Do we even know Planet Coaster 2 is in development? Well, yes, I reckon so. Back in 2019, an alleged roadmap was leaked containing information about Elite Dangerous, Jurassic World Evolution, Planet Zoo, and Planet Coaster. It was stated that Planco 2, codenamed Project Einstein, was in development and that Frontier were in talks with Disney, presumably to create DLC similar to that of Back to the Future and Ghostbusters that we have now. But on top of all of that is just common sense. As of January 2020, 2.5 million copies of the game had been sold, and with the release of the console edition later that year, sales can only have skyrocketed. They would be foolish not to. So, what do we need from a sequel to Planet Coaster? We could talk all day about things that would be nice, but for today, let's talk about those must-haves. This is a mix of my own opinions and suggestions taken in my Discord. Pathing. It doesn't matter who you ask, pathing is the biggest nightmare in Planet Coaster. I've had my fair share of troubles along the way. You piece of At this point, a lot of us have just gotten used to it, but there's no denying it's janky as heck. However, unless they've been completely oblivious to the community's outcry, I'd be surprised if this wasn't at the top of their list. Backstage Functionality. I think it's safe to say a large portion of players are realism nerds, and one thing we absolutely love adding is back of house areas and behind the scenes facilities, despite the fact that none of it is used. I personally would love to see transfer tracks and maintenance sheds, service roads and delivery management, fire escape routes and emergency situations. The list goes on, and I know we won't see all of it, but some additional backstage management would go a long way for a lot of players. Lighting. Whilst we do get some lovely sunsets and shadows, the Planco lighting system has one enormous flaw. Light permeates through buildings. This is mildly infuriating when doing shops and restaurants, but when it comes to dark rides, it's a huge problem. In order to get a pitch black interior, you either have to fake it with black panels, or bury the whole thing in terrain, which isn't realistic. Not only that, but if you place a light on one side of a wall, you can see the glow from the other side. For a game to give us so many different types of track ride, but not optimise the lighting is a massive problem, and one I sincerely hope is fixed for the sequel. Weather. This one should go without saying. As they introduce seasons into Planet Zoo, this should be ported over to Planet Coaster 2 by default, and I would be shocked if not. With this should come the challenges that theme parks are faced by inclement weather. It starts raining. You have to decide which attractions need to be closed. Perhaps we introduce the closed season, where essential maintenance and ride swaps take place. Weather and seasons not only improve the visuals, but gameplay too. Rides. Despite being a theme park game, the base game only has 42 flat rides. This might seem like a lot, but when you think about the sheer quantity of rides that exist in the world, it's only a small portion. Whilst on the subject of rides, they're way too over-themed. How can you use the whirly rig for anything other than the pirate theme when it's essentially just a kiddie Ferris wheel? I believe each ride should come completely unskinned for you to theme to your park. Scaling. The Planco build items are a shambles when it comes to scale. The majority are massively oversized, and then what's worse is there's no consistency. This became particularly evident in the World's Fair pack. Just look at the difference between these doors. A feature that was recently showcased in the Prehistoric Kingdom Alpha was scaling. Each asset can be resized to meet demand, and the texture scales up with it. A highly demanded feature for Planet Coaster 2. Crossplay. With the introduction of consoles so late, there was obviously no way to implement cross-platform workshops. On the assumption that Planco 2 will be released for all platforms at the same time, it's super important that creations can be shared with all players, regardless of device. There's no denying that right now console players feel a bit shafted that their blueprints and parks can't be spotlighted by channels like Channel 5 Gaming without them investing in an overpriced console. Multiplayer. Okay, bear with me here. I know Planet Coaster is far from a co-op FPS, but imagine being able to build parks with friends at the same time. Collabs are a huge thing nowadays, and to be able to build simultaneously is not only efficient, but just a lovely sandbox environment to chill with your pals. Optimization. As the years have passed, Planet Coaster somehow runs worse and worse. A lot of people blame badly optimized TMTK, but I think the game engine just needs an enormous overhaul. Slow load times, lag on high-end PCs, and don't get me started on autosaves. Planet Coaster was not designed for some of the megaparks we see today, some of which contain over 1 million pieces. Planet Coaster 2 needs to be built to last, and I hope that 5 years of technical advancements are enough for this to happen. Graphics. Don't get me wrong, Planet Coaster is still a stunning game, but as more and more people start using reshade, I wonder if Frontier will go for a more realistic vibe than the oversaturated cartoon style we have now. But naturally with this comes the performance issues, and I personally would always choose smoother gameplay over 4K visuals. I could go on for hours about features we'd all love to see in Planet Coaster 2, but right now it's all speculation. All we can hope is that Frontier have been listening and come back with the perfect theme park management game. Based on what they presented to us back in 2016, I have no fear that they can do the same again. What features would you like to see? Leave a comment below and make sure to subscribe, as I'll be releasing further videos as and when we hear more about the sequel. In the meantime, if you like Planet Coaster and sarcastic British men, then you're sure to enjoy the rest of my content.